Hey YouTube fans, I want to do a quick video on watering in the garden and some differences. We have had a tremendous amount of rain here in eastern North Carolina, 10 inches the prior week, and then just a couple inches this last week, but it rained pretty much every day or every other day. So I have not needed to water in the garden. And that's a really important distinction between roses in the garden and roses that are potted up. For experienced gardeners, you probably realize this already. When your roses are potted up, especially if they're really growing rapidly and they've got a lot of canes and leaves, they're taking a lot of moisture out of the soil. These pots dry out really quickly. So even though, if you've had a tremendous amount of rain, after a couple days, these pots can dry out. This is Ring of Fire on Fortuniana, and for the most part it looks okay. If I reach down the soil, this feels pretty wet. It's going to depend on the pot size and the growth of the plant. So this one is in a 4-gallon container, moderate growth, but because of that bigger container, holding more soil is going to keep it from drying out as quickly. Another example over here, this is a little bit more mature plant, a slightly smaller pot, and I need to water it. Number one, if you reach down in the soil, it's dry. So that's your first tip. Kind of reach down into the soil and feel how it feels. You know you're almost too late, not in terms of the rose dying, but in terms of optimal growth, when your flowers are drooping over. So this rose is moonstone, it's drooping over. I'm going to need to get that some water right away. So when you're watering in the garden, again, if it's rained a lot, don't fall into the habit of thinking everything's okay. Your pots dry out really quickly. Any excess rain has just gone through the pot itself and washes right out. So after a day or two, they can dry out. The other thing, these are perennials. If you have something newly planted, you're going to want to water that for the first couple weeks fairly regularly. If it's a sunny, dry day, it could be every day. And if you have well-drained soil like we do here, you're not going to overwater it, but you can see that this is drooping. Again, the flower heads are drooping a little bit because they have had not enough water here in the past 24 hours. And it's a pretty big distinction. We had rain yesterday, and then we watered yesterday morning, but still, look at these leaves drooping over. So if you have something potted up, especially the smaller the pot, you're going to water that more consistently. It could be every day or every other day. If you have something newly planted, we showed you the example of a perennial, but that goes for roses as well. You're going to have to be more aggressive with your watering. So I know this is a short video, but just a pretty big distinction. When you have plants in the ground, they have a lot of room for error, and they have a lot of the soil has a lot of holding capacity for water. It takes a while to dry out. Pots, not as much. And again, the bigger the pot, the slower the drying out might be. But when you have smaller pots like this maiden rose with Cajun Moon, you're going to just have to at least monitor it. And if you notice the blooms drooping at all, you're definitely to the point that water is critical, and you got to get that on the plant as soon as you can. So that's it from the garden today. Just a couple blooms lingering. We're certainly past peak. We're looking for another flush of blooms here as we get into the latter part of June into the first week or so of July. Hope everyone's staying healthy. Have a great one. Thank you very much again for subscribing.